because they got angry. It happens, but it's not nearly as often. But yeah, the balance thing is really that is undeniably hard to overcome for sure, because I don't think there's an equivalent even in Dota. Like CS:GO is very samey across the board, so you really feel like it's quite even again. Because even with counter-terrorists and terrorists, you eventually swap places, right? And I know there's momentum if you started off on one side, whatever, guys. It's not the same. But even for something like Dota, that does have, obviously, a lot of differences. 10 people, 10 different heroes. I don't think there's that same, oh my gosh, there's not... Oh, why did I choose Dota? I don't know anything about Dota. Let's go with League of Legends, something I do actually kind of know something about. You know, in League of Legends, there's a final game... And, you know, even if all 5 games are played without Lee Sin, someone who's a diehard Lee Sin fan is not going to just be like, oh, I'm done. This is stupid. I'm outies. Like, what? No. But it 100% happens in StarCraft. And then you have the further complication of it being a drastically different game across all 9 matchups. Where, again, yes, there is some differences in MOBAs when you have different compositions. It's just not nearly the same. You don't really legitimately get rid of at least probably 25% of people because you just can't have all 3 races. So I think that is one insurmountable thing about StarCraft. Even fighting games. You know, I don't know how many times people watch a fighting game and say, oh, the only Fox playing guy is out of the tournament. I guess I don't watch anymore. That might happen a bit, but I still don't think to the same extent as StarCraft. Bottom right, by the way, Liquid Elazer. Top left, Liquid Clem. Oh, we got Liquid Finals. Yeah. It's a best of 5 as well. Clem redeeming his run as he did lose to Skillis last week. Won against them this week, then won against Here Marine, and now is here in the finals. We were just discussing basically why StarCraft 2 is missing some of the spectator excitements that other esports have. Something I think a lot about, because I wish I could improve it. I wish I could fix the problem. And fix it without just saying give more money as well. The ultimate conundrum. We do have a starport build here, so we might get something exciting in the next couple of minutes. StarCraft 2 ever find perfect balance and leave it as is? No. I know Brood War kind of did, but I don't believe the same thing would happen in StarCraft. Nor do I believe that is just what is in with the crowd nowadays. I'm obviously, as someone who says I don't think you need a team game to be popular, I'm somewhat against the crowd on some things. But I am with the crowd on this thing, and that is that you do need to embrace somewhat of what is the current esports or video game market, like what is being popular nowadays, and then say, how can we incorporate that? So, you know, the biggest thing that we've talked about is microtransactions and skins. That is just the way that modern gaming developed into something that StarCraft 2 back in 2007 or 6, whenever it started to be developed, would never have known. I didn't realize that was going to be a big thing. So, similar with updates. I think you need to have a game that's constantly updated. It's better to have a game that's updated and slightly broken than it is to have a game perfectly balanced with no updates. And by updates, I literally mean the Hellion gets 0.1 second delay on its attack. The map pool gets rotated in. I mean, anything at all just to say that it's a bit new. Clem did try and race into the natural, by the way, but since something happened, it wasn't super, super important. Elazer doing a fine job, having just enough lings on every single round of Hellion production to hold off. It did go up to a starport, but then the starport only produced a single liberator, so still one of the fastest ways to get into the marine portion of the game that you can find. Even though Clem has had a bit of a bad day. Days? I think he only lost to Shadone, right? I guess there was the cup, Open Cup last week, and then a couple of days ago he lost to Shadone. He's had a couple of bad series. He is overall one of the favorites to win any type of tournament. Doesn't save the Liberator. Has 2 Hellions still gunning down drones, though, and that is a bit concerning. There's just nothing else besides these 2 queens, so the Hellion, singular at this point, may have been able to get a couple more drones. It does not. 7 in total go down for 6 Hellions, a Reaper, and a Liberator. Yeah, we can see not exactly worth it for Clem, who loses out on all this gas as well. Yeah, not exactly worth it. Fortunately, it looks like he is still going to get his 3rd CC down about as quick as possible. His production is barely matching up with his loss of Hellions. I'd be a little concerned. You know, don't just send SCVs down to the 3rd base, because if 20 Lings did show up, your Marines out in the middle of nowhere, they would die. But you can do this. You can do exactly this. And now, you know, there's no Hellions to help with the first push, the Hellbat push, but that's okay. Really, the biggest thing is making sure that you get your 3rd CC down, and that you don't get punished for it, for losing your Hellions. Doesn't seem like it's going to be happening here, although it would be really scary to do this against a Elazer, because I think a Elazer is absolutely the type of Zerg player who would go, you know what, I think you're going to use all your Hellions, and then I'm going to build 3D Lings, and I'm going to cross the map and kill you. Because we know that Clem, and any Terran player, 1, will get the 3rd CC as fast as possible, they need to, and then 2, once they think it's kind of secure, they're going to pick up a 2 medevacs. They're going to get rolling on the 16 Marine 2 medevac thing, you know? So that is why we occasionally see the risk. It's definitely a risk from the Zerg player, but we do see the risk taken from some Zerg players to build more than enough Lings to send some of them across the map. Okay. Did Elazer just lose the game? There are no Banelings. There are only Lings and only Queens, and if Clem knew that, I think he would have continued diving. My goodness. That is not a good feeling when all of your Lings are dead and now your Queens are only up, the only things up against 16 Marines. You absolutely can die from that. Fortunately, that is how this game is going to end. Elazer is going to get up to 5 bases. He does desperately need to spend his money. Oh, we have some burrow action on the way, like that. But no sight on this incoming drop to the right side. Quick response with some Lings, but no roly-poly-oly Banelings. So the hatchery is at least going to take some damage. Pulls the Banelings away from that side anyways. Elazer was smart to the idea that there'd be another attack to the left. His Banelings are just a little bit too late, and now they're not properly protected. 5 Banelings left over. Should be good enough, especially as the roly-poly kicks in. Very close calls. That is 3 close calls back to back to back for Elazer, in my opinion. But so far, he is holding. Is there a clean stream for the final server couch on to observe? No, there is not. There is one time where the admin seriously offered that as an option, but fortunately we've barely had enough spots for every spectator. Spawning pool just went down. That is kind of big. The thing is that a spawning pool is obviously an important structure. It really matters the most when there's another real legitimate battle happening. Not another drop, but an actual push. So if you get your spawning pool destroyed and then this push is coming, then you would worry. Abso-freaking-lutely. But assuming that your spawning pool gets replanted ASAP, you usually have enough time, because the Banelings will buy enough time. The Terrans that take that seriously, they have to spread clean up the creep spread. And they're not really sure how many Lings you had before the spawning pool died regardless, right? But it is absolutely something that has hurt Elazer. There's a reason he was making 1,500 for a second there, finally able to build 70 Lings. He would love to have already had them on the front of the line. But I think with only 1 tank really anchoring this push, second tank so far back. Wow, okay, Clem's really hoping that Elazer will dive. I don't think Elazer dies to this. Good spread, slightly off of creep. Water mines are reinforcing. A little too far forward usually, but there aren't enough Banelings, so never mind. This is actually totally game. Did not have enough Banelings. as there weren't as many lings as usual. So that was, I think that is a rare occurrence of a spawning pool directly impacting the defense of the main push, but that was it. That was it. 70 more lings are out 45 seconds sooner. Those 70 lings make 30 banelings. Boom. There is a second round for Clem to hold. Sorry, for Elazer to hold. That 100% had to do with the spawning pool being destroyed. Nicely done. Thank you, Bazina, for the 19 months. Hey, when my main champ played in tournaments because it probably means getting nerfed soon. It's an inherently lonely game being 1v1. I think you can support the 1v1 scene with everything else in StarCraft, though. StarCraft or Warcraft. I think you draw in as many eyeballs from your player base as possible, and that doesn't mean forcing your player base to play 1v1. That means opening up arcades and team games and stuff like that. And co-op and blah, 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 blah. The problem with StarCraft is that even though about 60% of our player base is not 1v1, the image created is that yes, you better be 1v1 or you are not a StarCraft player. You are not a StarCraft fan. A lot of StarCraft people know that is not the case, but the image is there. What's the first thing you say to a person who doesn't play StarCraft when you say I play StarCraft? It's the first thing they say, sorry. Oh, what a hard game. I'd never be able to play it. It's like, well, okay. Top right, going for a 2-Rax. It is Clem. Bottom left, it is Elazer. Elazer was already a bit on the back foot. Nothing was ever quite going his way as far as that Marine defense. The Hellion thing and the Liberator thing, I think, was good enough for Elazer. I do. But the defense of the Marines already started off poorly when he didn't take care of the 16 Marines well enough. That was really scary. Then there was the couple of drops where, again, Elazer was just a little bit late to really being prepared for, so he was alive, but he wasn't thriving. And the spawning pool did go down at a really important time. And it was directly the reason that the game ended right then and there. Now, if 70 lings were made faster, and thus 30 banelings were also made faster, could Clem still have won with that push? Probably, because it's Clem. But it would have been a very different game for sure. And now Clem is hoping to use momentum off of a first very overall quick win. That was, what, an 8-minute game? To 2-Rax and hopefully continue offsetting Elazer. So either straight up win with this or get Elazer to grumble, and then just be tilted for the rest of the series. Do you think relative national levels matter? I do think you should try to support the scenes that clearly have an interested viewer and player base. And yes, there is a reason I'm very specific about this. I don't think with a limited amount of cash and exposure you can just, support every single region ever. We do already have a weird defense. These drones are going to have to be pulled very, very far away. The Overlord almost died, but keyword is almost. But it's weird because the drones are still chasing. The bunker does finish. One Marine getting in, though, is not enough to hold it. So, this is a defense. This is a defense. I got to cancel this one. Kind of let things go. The drones are pulled an awfully long ways away. Oh, no cancel on the bunker. Hello? I thought your micro was good. What's up with that? But they did get what they wanted. 5 drones go down at the end of the day. I think that's acceptable for a laser. I think it's acceptable to lose 5, maybe in upwards of 7 or 8 drones if you nip this in the bud, if you don't have to deal with the bunkers. Now, the worst case scenario is losing 5 drones, pulling them all into the Marines, and not stopping the bunker harassment, because that would just be game over. But in this case, you have a lot of time as a Zerg player to rebuild. You're not going to get that quick of a follow-up here, even if they go right into the factory, which all 2-Rax follow-ups do. They go right into that factory. They're gonna have to wait till they build 2 Hellions, and 2 Hellions usually aren't the scariest thing, so really are waiting till they have 4 Hellions, and then 4 Hellions could dive after your mineral line and can cause some trouble, but it's a little bit later on, isn't it? And Elazer did just get a scout that was a command center and a starport, so really nice that he was able to see both things. Most importantly, he saw the starport. So with the starport, that obviously means we could have a medevac drop. So the Hellions are still a big threat, as they are not just going to be entering in through the good old-fashioned ground pathways, easily scoutable. They could be heading in through either one of the main access or the natural one. So that's why Elazer's moving his overlords. So far, this Hellion drop is a Hellion Marine drop. Okay, I didn't wait for the whole 4 Hellions. Ooh, surprising play from Clem specifically here. Most other Terrans, I wouldn't bat an eye, but Clem and Hero Marine, I would not expect them to go into a fusion core. So, Special, Euthermal, Vindicta, Masa, Maru, I just can't think of Terrans right now. If all of them go into a fusion core, I'm not really surprised. But yeah, Clem going into a battlecruiser opener. I think Elazer might be surprised as well. His scouting is usually not, I'm gonna say the best, and that's a bit harsh, I'm sure. Oh, drones. Drones going down, drones going down. 8 drones, let's make it a 9th. There you have it. 9 drones go down to the Hellions. I don't think that necessarily would be game over either, right? That's decent for the Hellions, but again, Elazer's going to have some time to recover. The problem is that those Hellions, once again, has Elazer thinking of defense, not scouting. And then second of all, the Hellions themselves scouted the lack of spores. They know that the battlecruiser is going to be able to transport over and get some damage done, but uh-oh, SpaghettiOs! Gonna have to cancel that very fresh command center. Only 2 Hellions. This time around, Clem is being punished for sacrificing his Hellions, something he wasn't last game. But these Lings not getting as much damage as they would like. Those SCVs were pulled into the pocket of the mineral line very, very well. And while the third base being canceled is usually pretty good, it was canceled. And because it was fresh, it's not that much of a lost time commitment. And the Lings didn't actually see the fusion core. That's the biggest takeaway, I think. So we're gonna have a delayed reaction. 4 Queens do get pulled into the fray pretty damn quickly, and a Spore was already about halfway done, so I think this is still good for Elazer. Better than the alternative, that's for sure. Battlecruiser only grabs 3 kills. But, woof. This is just a big stylistic surprise for Elazer. He does have a Spire on the way. And this was something he was deciding before he saw the fusion core. And since it is Clem, I'd still say that you'd assume this is going into bio, not mech. But the fast Spire play, just Elazer's build of choice on Glittering Ashes, might be a surprise to Clem. Oh, no, he saw it. Never mind, it's not going to be a surprise. Battlecruiser was in the natural, so is the Spire. So missile turrets will come down, and Clem will not really have to worry about that. Battlecruiser has to teleport out. But it does. Another Marine drop. The Marine drop is on borrowed time here. It should skedaddle and not fly into mutas. I think Clem, his habit is probably to go into the main base because there's not too many fast muta players anymore, but then he realized, oh, maybe not. Good position to unload the Marines, though. Very nice position. While the Marines do not have combat shields, remember that Elazer doesn't have any upgrades. And, ooh, this is a really important thing that's missing. Centrifugal hooks. Usually that is the other thing you use your gas on. So you get mutas, that's a lot of gas. You start up centrifugal hooks, And then I think he started out +1 missile. Or +1 air, rather. Although, one or the other first, but point is, kind of as fast as possible. I'm a little worried about that. In fact, I'm very worried about the Shivagula hooks missing. The mutas have not bought any time. They never got across the map. Clem was pretty quick getting to his marine ball, and while again, they still don't have combat shields. That is just a lot of firepower. But the lack of combat shields might be one of the biggest reasons why Elazer is able to hold. The lacking 10 health is huge, especially if that tank splashed any of them with its shot. Battlecruiser teleports in, or rather does not teleport in, so it can teleport out. And it will have to do so. We have one of the weirdest battles we've ever seen. Muta's microing against the battlecruiser. There's the teleports. And we also got a dono. $5 from 47S. Got a bounce. Thanks for a fun stream. Thank you very much for the resub and the dono, 27S. Wasn't the Fusion Core Rush standard TVZ a few months ago? No, not a few months ago. There was a time where a Fusion Core opener was kind of popular, but I would say it's been years since it was the thing every Terran did. Wow, that wouldn't mind reach, man. Immediately pushing back the mutas. Clem's gonna hold on to a very substantial upgrade lead as well. 2-2 starts up while Lasers 1-1 is not even 50% done. At the very least, Baneling speed is finally finished up. +1 missile also going to finish up. Damn it, air. I don't know why I choose all of the words except the one that it is. +1 air will finish up. And immediately going into +2. Continuing to build up the muta count as well. 6 have gone down so far. Kind of a nasty number to lose for a Zerg. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Engineering base. In a bit of a vulnerable spot. That's where the battlecruiser could maybe just park itself and cover those 2 engineering base. And even these barracks are in a really unfortunate spot. The mutas might not be getting too much. No, 2 reactors is good. But they might not be getting much more because they are also limited in their mobility. The Marines have created a bit of a surround here. Whoa, what happened? I'm actually not sure what happened. He must have meant to raise a supply depot and instead had his... No, that's R versus L. I don't know why his SCVs went everywhere. I don't know why his command center lifted. Anywho, the mutas are taking up so much time is what I was trying to get to, right? So the mutas were also kind of corralled, but they've taken up so much time, and they do effectively get that. They got the +2 attack, so they are effective. They finally got the engineering bay. But it took so much time for Clem to deal with this. Now, Clem probably chose to deal with it. He said, you know what, this is dumb, but I guess I'll be patient about it. Let's just wait this out. And that's better than trying to still be fancy-dancing on the side of the map and rolling into a bunch of banelings on creep, right? But it does mean that Elazer just had about 2 minutes where he got to do everything he wanted on his side of the map. Creep spread, bases, 100 drones, bunch of upgrades, more mutas if he wanted them, and Clem was very calmly getting maxed out, still ends up losing his +2 attack. So if he was maxed out with 2-2, I'd say, you know, it's still scarier for a Elazer, but that upgrade actually dying is really traumatic for a Terran. We cry every time because it was the +2 attack, so it was the most important one. These mutas have certainly paid for themselves. Initially, they didn't look like they were going to be good. Clem's first marine attack was sketch, but now I think they have bought so much time that Elazer has more of a playground than ever before. Clem needs to stay on the straight and narrow, keep his head down, play some good old-fashioned solid TVZ, always off of creep, always with the spread, you know, all that good stuff. And then he can still have a chance in this game, but Elazer, like I said, more of a playground. Couple of banelings unnecessarily dying, going into the meat grinder, no support for them, but we had a big old baneling roll by that killed the planetary while that was going on, and are looking for a couple of more SCVs. One of mine's gonna help and not kill all of them. So the SCVs are dead. Clem is trying to win the game right now, but he doesn't have enough to win the game. He doesn't have enough Marines. He has nothing soaking up the baneling shots, and Clem, I think he's gonna tap out after this. I mean, he still hasn't dealt with the mutas. They come back in to kill more shit. Clem's down 50 supply, and this was not a very stellar game for Clem, actually. Yeah, this is the final fights. And the Woodamines are not getting quite good enough shots to win the game, so they would have had to have killed everything. GG. Thank you, Natsmanen, for the 2 months. Good to be back. The ever-important second subscription. Thank you very much. Apollo's snoring right now. You guys can't hear it, but I heard. It kind of sounds like the sound of the Lickitung in the Pokemon Stadium game. Yeah. Apollo. Hey, old man. Okay. Lights are out. Move on to Berlingrad for map 3. Bottom right, Clem. Top left, Elazer. Happy to see a point on the board for Elazer after the very disappointing game 1, where he was always on the back foot, had his spawning pool sniped, and then just really couldn't do anything against Clem. The second game was 80% Elazer's. 2-Rax was a bit annoying. The Hellion follow-up was a bit annoying. The Battlecruiser surprise could have been really big. And then all of it was handled with enough grace from Elazer. The last thing that was concerning for Elazer was his later centrifugal hooks, but that really didn't end up mattering. He took the Marine battle well enough without it, and then there was no pressure from Clem. He was forced to go back home, wait out for combat shields, right, first and foremost. But then he just wanted to get his 4 bases up, and while he was doing that, the mutas really got going. And once the mutas got going, I don't think Clem had anything else to say in that game. He just had to accept it and then hope that the bones of his build, of his gameplay, was still going to be good enough. It absolutely wasn't. He still was outdone by Elazer. And now we have a very, Elazer or special move here, and that's a forward 2-Rax to create the wall. And he's gonna go for Reapers, yeah. Interesting. This is most effective on 1, a map that's shorter rush distance, and 2, a map that has a, not dataless point wall off in the natural. So that's Berlingrad for you. And I think it's the only map that I really ever see this on. I think I've seen it on Blackburn once or twice, maybe? No, not Blackburn. That can't be true, because Blackburn is such a weird wall off. I think it is only Berlingrad of this map will they really see this on. Anywho, bit of a surprise for Elazer to see 2-Rax in the forward position, but once you see it, you know what it is. And I would say it doesn't usually do a lot of damage. Zerg players, it's gone from, knowledge that you've gained from past experience, and it's moved over into almost generational knowledge. It's something that's passed on in your DNA from Zerg player to Zerg player. You just know, you remember how to deal with Reapers. And of course, Elazer is a guy who's played a lot of StarCraft in all of the metas. So it really is a matter of just thinking back to it. Because it's not like it is a proxy 3-Rax Reaper build, and it's not beyond controlling it pre-Reaper nerf. So it really isn't supposed to be the biggest of deals. This is still Clem controlling Reapers, so you would be scared. Clem actually just lost a Reaper. So while it's a comical thing to make sound important, I would say it is kind of important. just in general for the build dynamics. And then 2, I think Clem would take it personally. Clem would be really mad with himself for losing a Reaper right there. I don't know what happens when Clem is Michael Jordan saying, I took that personally, but it's his own fault. I don't know what happens then. When Michael Jordan said it, he then dunked all over the guy that BM'd them. Does Clem dunk on himself? Probably not. But it does one of 2 things, right? It spurs you on to do better. And we have seen Clem go full Hulk mode after a mistake and just rip off Zerg's heads. But we've also seen Clem still deal a little bit with the emotional and mental side of StarCraft, where one thing goes wrong and another thing goes wrong, and then he does start to snowball a little bit. I would say he used to be a very... emotional is too harsh of a word, but he used to noticeably lose and then get defeated. I'd say 3-4 years ago, that was one of his biggest weaknesses. I don't think he's really there that much anymore. He usually brings it back. It is, well, let's watch and see. Does he go Super Saiyan because he lost a Reaper, or does he start getting into his own head because he also just lost the previous game? And the follow-up here for Clem does look to be a 2-base build, by the way, guys. So this is a very interesting 2-base build. Some experimentation coming out here from Clem in this finals best of 5. Hellions and Reapers on the front lines, looking to kill any creep tumors, little bits of lings, just kind of generally threatened. But really, the story is in the build order behind it. So we have 1 engineering bay, 2 barracks done, 3rd one is halfway done. So +1 attack will be started up. Not a tank build, which is usually what we'd see from a 2-base attack from the Terran, but rather a Hellbat build. So very different, very, very different. A very typical, old-school 2-base Terran would absolutely be going for tanks, especially on a map like this. This is almost going into a 2-1-1 fake outs, where you don't reactor the medevacs, you reactor the Hellions. But it's after a 2 Reaper opener, so it's a little weirder than that, but it's effectively what it is. It's the 2-1-1 with a bunch of Hellions and 2 medevacs, because the medevac produced 1 at a time. No, I actually even added a reactor here. It's still roughly what it is, though. Just hitting with the idea that you're macroing. Maybe it'll only be 16 Marines, and instead a bunch of Hellbats show up, which complicate matters a lot for someone only depending on Lings and Queens. No Bailing Nest equals no surviving against this one. And Clem did just go Hulk mode. Hulk smash! And the idea of the build worked out really well, too. I'm not really going to blame the build for this one, though. So Elazer, I think the idea with the build is that you Reaper them, you Hellion harass them. Oh, what's that? You think it's a macro? Oh, what, bam! It's Hellbat Marine. Get fucked. And that's some of it. But I was actually trying to point this out last game, as we watch Elazer die. He's dead. That Elazer doesn't really have a lot of scouting in the mid-game of this matchup. I would personally say it's a weakness of his. I would, but I don't know. He seems to think it's totally fine. I've never heard any other Zerg player really point it out. But for me, it looks like he's one of the less likely Zergs to make sure to get an Overlord to the other side of the map. Never getting a second Overlord to the other side of the map. Very rarely opening up with Overlord speed, sorry. And then just generally not really bothering to get those kind of sneaky Ling scouts in, just in case. I do think that he gets enough scouting information to 9 times out of 10 know what's going on, just with the little tiny details that pro gamers can pick up. But there was no Ling that even tried to cross the map to look at what the hell the wall was doing. Once the Overlord was dead, he had no idea what the wall was doing. And if he saw the wall, he would have seen continued Hellion production with a handful of Marines and known that something was up. You wouldn't do that for an extended period of time. You either transfer over into Marines and cut it with the Hellion shit, or you're going into mech if you're building Hellions, right? So the combination of the two would absolutely point out to the idea that it's a Hellbat attack. And I don't think anything ever tried to go across the map, or maybe it did, and Clem's Reaper Hellion harassment was just too good. So before I go negative, I want to go positive and just give credit to Clem. Consistent pressure, consistent bothering. Maybe he did pick off a couple of, what was supposed to be scouting lings. But yeah, Elazer just doesn't seem to get as many of it. Many lings across the map, as many overlords across the map, so on and so forth. It's a really tiny detail, especially in this matchup, but I just feel like it's less likely. When it's Cyril, I always assume he's going to get one ling out there somehow, some way. When it's Raynor, I just assume that he's going to try a ling run by anyways, which in its run buying gets scouting done. For Elazer, I know he can be aggressive. I know he's a very smart player. I know he knows what to do. It just seems less likely from that guy. Top right Elazer, bottom left Clem. We move on.
Thank you for becoming a member.
Thank you, Grand Thrawn, for converting a sub. Now you're dedicated. Did you know that Hellbat attacks onto bonus damage versus light? I think what's more surprising to a lot of people is that Banelings aren't light. A surprising amount of people don't really consider it. It comes from a ling, right? So what's the problem? Even people who play Terran and struggle to kill the Banelings with the Hellions, even they sometimes get shocked. Like, what? Oh, that's why it's so difficult. Nice little trick build there from Clem, by the way. As I was pointing out, something that I would expect from Elazer or special with the 2 racks opener. Then the follow-up just being that aggressive. Just unique. I don't think I've seen Clem do it. Or certainly not that often. And I do feel like it is scoutable. Going back to my idea about the ling going across the map, I'd really have to dive into the replay to really know for sure if there was an attempt to even get across the map, or if Elazer did just assume it was a 3rd CC. But in my opinion, if you did have anything go across the map, I feel like it would be scoutable. Seeing factory production that late into the game with any amount of barracks units, I think that makes it obvious. It could be forgetting some other style of play. I mean, Time was doing this thing where he would go up to 3cc and build more, like 12 Hellions and use them with a faster push. So I guess there's that, but I feel like the factory being on the front lines would be the most obvious thing to point towards a Hellbat push. Usually that 2-1-1 build that I was talking about, 9 times... Why listen to the Reaper? Wah! But yeah, 9 times out of 10, that 2-1 build that I'm talking about, well, not even 9 times out of 10, 10 out of 10, it's in the main. It's in the main. It's properly protected. You can't scout it unless you have an Overlord getting in there. But the fact that it was more on the natural is just really surprising to me. Anyways, I swear I'll move on. Elazer, no Overlord at all on the other side of the map. Didn't lose it, just, again, pointing out what makes Elazer a bit more unique compared to these other Zergs. And I do believe it's a bit worse. Now, 2000 Atmospheres doesn't have a perv pillar, so you might think that's acceptable, and it kind of is, but usually it'd still be one, like, here. And now it's just a issue of getting any scouting information at all, right? Anything at all. So a Ling did see the Hellions, but you gotta question how many Hellions. It did see the lack of supply depots at the wall. So that is a little bit more scouting than you would think. It means the 3rd CC. If it's a Hellbat build, there are more supply depots. If it's a 1-1-1 build after 2 bases, there's at least 1 or 2 supply depots. And then a 3rd CC after the second one. If it's a 3rd CC build, you don't need supply depots. until when Clem got his, right? Which is much later. So Elazer does have a lot of information. Whether it's a fusion core behind it, mech behind it, 12 Hellions behind it, a 2-1-1 behind it, he doesn't actually know. So that's the missing intel that a lot of Zergs would be trying to pick up with, well, probably just Lings on the side of the map every now and again, but yeah. Oh, well. You know, I said 12 Hellions-ish. I think Clem might be doing the Time style of play that I just referred to. I don't think Time invented it, it's just the most recent example I can think of. So he's still building Hellions, and these Hellions, you know, they dive, you think, oh great, they dived and killed 12 drones, okay, that's awesome. That's not it, that's not it. You keep building Hellions, you build up to your Marines, you do your drop, except that you still have 5, 6, maybe even upwards to 8 Hellions that you can even get an armory with. Now, I think Time would sometimes get an armory with it, and then other times wouldn't, and then would showcase the power of Hellions as is with the main army. Which, for a hot second, looks really powerful, and the next second looks really dumb, but we'll see how it goes. Clem may be tempted to just see if he could take more drones down. There's definitely a chance, and we even had it in this game. Okay, there's more than a chance. So what happens when a Zerg player loses drones? A lot of the time, because it's Hellions, they think, ah, okay, you trade your Hellions for my drones, you got me. And they don't want to make Lings. The Hellions are dead, your drones are dead, why build Lings after the fact? So they build more drones, expecting that there aren't going to be more Hellions. And if you're facing a mech player, or you're facing Clem, who's insistent on building these Hellions, then you just made a mistake. So, could have been worse. There was literally 5 Lings when I started that conversation. Oh, it was a monologue. I'm not talking to anyone. It's a monologue, but it could have been worse. 3 Hellions left alive could help out with the 2 medevac drop. It probably won't. So, not what Time was doing, but a different idea for sure. Diving, diving, and diving. Elazer has chosen to once again go into Mutas. How that worked out so well in the second game. And want another larger map. But a very different opener here from Clem. There wasn't the awkward 2 racks. There was a big drone loss due to the Hellions. And this time around, Clem's going to have 3 medevacs worth of units. Perhaps with combat shields. Quick scan from Clem as he, was scanning ahead for the safety of his Widowmine drop, which is apparently going to be very effective. Boom, 4 drones go down. Main base might not get as much, but it does scout the Spire. And as I was saying, 3 medevacs worth of Marines with combat shields in 1-1. If you don't have Banelings, you're dead. And Clem does not have to worry against Banelings. That's a pretty good surround from the Lings, though. That's a pretty good surround. If he had been able to realize that and tuck himself up against the hatchery or the corner, I think Elazer's straight up dead. He lost his queens. The Mutas can't help out against this strong of an army. All of the upgrades are done. There you have it. Tuck them in between the spawning pool and the lair and have yourself a grand old time. GG. Clem does take the 3-1.